Tell us where the gold is, old woman. The scream tore through the silence of my hallway like a physical blow. It was 2 a.m. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, my hands folded in my lap, listening to the heavy, frantic breathing on the other side of my locked bedroom door. I know you are awake, Martha. This time it was my daughter, Karen. Her voice didn't sound like the little girl I had raised. It sounded jagged, desperate, unrecognizable. Open this door, or Brad is going to open it for you. I am giving you to the count of 3. Brad, my son-in-law, shouted. I could hear the metallic clink of the red crowbar he had been carrying around the house for weeks. He hit the doorframe with it, a dull, heavy thud that shook the wood. 1. I looked at the heavy oak door. It was solid, original to the house, built in 1910. It had withstood time, weather, and raising a family. But it wouldn't withstand a 30-year-old man in the grip of a manic rage. 2. I didn't move. I didn't tremble. 3 months ago, I would have been cowering under the covers, praying for it to stop. 3 months ago, I would have opened the door, apologized for existing, and given them whatever they wanted, just to see them smile. But the woman sitting on the bed tonight was not the same woman who had let them in. That woman had been melted down in a crucible of betrayal and reforged into something much harder. 3. Have it your way, you senile old bat. I heard the wind up. I heard the grunt of exertion as Brad swung the crowbar. I saw the wood of the door splinter near the lock as the metal bit into it. But just as he wrenched the bar back, for a second, fatal strike, a voice rang out from the darkness of the hallway. A voice that wasn't mine. A voice that sounded like gravel and old iron. Drop it, son. Before I make you drop it. The silence that followed was absolute. The breathing stopped. The scratching at the door ceased. Who are you? Brad stammered, his bravado evaporating instantly. I am the man who is going to give you 5 seconds to get on your knees, the voice replied. But before I tell you how my son-in-law ended up facing a retired Marine sergeant in my upstairs hallway, I need you to understand how we got here. I need you to understand how a mother's love can be used as a weapon against her. And I need you to understand that just because a house is old, it doesn't mean the walls don't have ears. It began on a rainy Tuesday, in November. I was making tea in the kitchen of the Victorian home, where I had lived for 45 years. This house wasn't just a building, it was a member of the family. My late husband, Arthur, and I had bought it when it was a crumbling ruin. We had restored every inch of it ourselves. We had sanded the floors, plastered the walls, and carved the molding. Arthur used to joke, Martha, we have put so much blood, sweat, and money into these walls, there is probably gold buried in the plaster. That joke. That innocent, silly joke. If I had known, it would almost be my undoing, would have silenced him every time he said it. My phone rang. It was Karen. Mom, she was sobbing. It is gone. Everything is gone. What happened, sweetheart? My heart lurched. The condo. A pipe burst on the floor above us. The ceiling collapsed. There is black mold. The insurance says we have to vacate immediately, and the repairs will take months. We have nowhere to go. Oh, Karen, that is terrible, I said, my maternal instincts overriding any logic. But you always have a home here. You and Brad come stay with me. I have plenty of room. Really, Mom? Are you sure? We don't want to be a burden. Nonsense. Pack your bags. They arrived that evening. Brad, a man with restless eyes, and a smile that always seemed too wide, carried in the bags. He was a contractor, though I had never actually seen him finish a job. He always had big ideas, big schemes, and empty pockets. Martha, you are a lifesaver, Brad said, dropping a suitcase on my pristine hardwood floor. He looked around the foyer, his eyes scanning the crown molding, the crystal chandelier, the heavy mahogany staircase. This place is a goldmine. But it is falling apart. It needs updating. It is not falling apart, Brad, I said firmly. It is historic. Historic means old, Mom, Karen said, hugging me. She smelled of cigarettes, though she swore she had quit. But don't worry. We are here now. We can help you fix it up, while we stay. I should have said no right then. I should have said the house was fine. But I was lonely. Arthur had been gone for 3 years, and the silence of the big house sometimes pressed down on me like a physical weight. I thought having family around would bring life back to the rooms. I was wrong. It didn't bring life. It brought parasites. The first month was a slow erosion of my boundaries. It started small. I would come downstairs to find Brad fixing a squeaky floorboard by driving ugly, modern screws right through the antique oak. Brad, please, I said, horrified. You can't use deck screws on 100-year-old oak. Relax, Martha, he scoffed, wiping his hands on his jeans. It stopped the squeak, didn't it? You have to stop living in the past. This house needs to function. Then, things started disappearing. Small things. A silver candlestick. A first edition book Arthur loved. When I asked Karen, she shrugged. Oh, I think I saw that in the donation pile, Mom. It was tarnished. I thought you wanted to declutter. You have so much junk. It wasn't junk. It was sterling silver. Well, it is gone now, she snapped, her tone shifting instantly, from helpful to annoyed. You should be grateful, I am helping you clean. This place is a fire hazard, with all this hoarding. Hoarding. That was the word they started using. My house was immaculate. Yes, it was full of antiques, art, and memories, but it was curated. It was a museum of a life well lived. But to them, anything they couldn't sell or understand was hoarding. The real nightmare began in the second month. I came home from grocery shopping to find a white van in the driveway. The front door was wide open. I walked into the living room and dropped my bags. The fireplace mantel was gone. It was a hand-carved Italian marble mantel that Arthur had imported in the 80s. It was the centerpiece of the room. Now, there was just a gaping hole of jagged brick and torn drywall. Karen. Brad. I screamed. Brad walked in from the kitchen, eating a sandwich. Whoa, calm down, Martha. What is wrong? The mantle. Where is the mantle? Oh, that thing? He chewed casually. It was cracked. structurally unsound. I leaned on it, and it practically fell off. I did you a favor, and hauled it away. It could have fallen on you. It was not cracked. It was solid marble. It had microfractures, Mom, Karen added, coming down the stairs. Brad knows about these things. He is a contractor. We were worried about your safety. Where is it? I want it back. It is at the dump, Brad lied. His eyes shifted to the left. Gone. I knew he was lying. I knew he had sold it. That mantle was worth $10,000 easily. I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. They weren't just disrespectful guests. They were looting my home. I want you to leave, I said, my voice trembling. Pack your things. I want you out by the weekend. Brad and Karen exchanged a look. A look I didn't understand then, but I understand now. It was the look of two predators, realizing their prey was trying to escape. Mom, Karen said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. You are confused. You are not thinking clearly. We can't leave you here alone. You are forgetting things. You are getting agitated. Look at you, you are shaking. I am shaking because you stole my mantle. See? Brad pointed at me. Paranoid. It is the beginning stages, babe. Just like we talked about. Paranoid. That was the new narrative. That night, I locked my bedroom door, for the first time. But the house didn't feel safe anymore. I could hear them downstairs, whispering, moving furniture, the sound of metal on wood. A few days later, the renovations escalated. They stopped pretending to fix things, and started hunting. Martha, Brad asked me over breakfast one morning. He was trying to sound casual, but his eyes were greedy. Karen told me this funny story about Arthur. Something about a retirement fund in the walls? Gold or something? I froze. That was a joke, Brad. Arthur liked to joke that the house cost us so much, we buried our money in the plaster. Are you sure? Brad leaned in. Because I have been doing some research on houses from this era. People didn't trust banks. They hid things. And this house, it has a lot of hollow spaces. There is no gold, Brad. Right. Sure. He winked at Karen. No gold. From that day on, the destruction became systematic. I would wake up to the sound of drilling. I would find holes punched in the drywall, behind paintings. Checking for termites, Brad would say, grinning. They were tearing my house apart, looking for a fortune that didn't exist. But the worst part wasn't the house. It was what they did to me. I started feeling tired. Unnaturally tired. I would drink my morning tea, which Karen insisted on making for me, to help me relax, and within 20 minutes, I would feel a heavy fog descend over my brain. My limbs would feel like lead. I would slur my words. Oh, look at her, I heard Karen say one afternoon, as I slumped in my armchair, unable to lift my head. She is out of it again. The dementia is progressing fast. It is sad, Brad replied, his voice devoid of empathy. But it makes it easier to work. She sleeps, we search. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell them I wasn't senile, I was drugged. But my tongue wouldn't obey me. I drifted into a black, chemical sleep, and while I slept, I dreamed of my house screaming, as they ripped into its flesh. The turning point came on a Friday. February 12th. I remember the date, because it was the day I decided to fight back. Karen brought me my tea. Here, Mom. It is chamomile. It will help you nap. Thank you, dear, I mumbled. I waited for her to leave the room. Then, I poured the tea into the potted fern, by the window. I sat back in my chair, closed my eyes, and waited. 20 minutes later, they came in. She is out, Brad whispered. Like a light. Good, Karen said. We have to find it this weekend, Brad. I can't keep living here. This old house smells like dust and death. We are close, Brad said. I tapped the wall in the master bedroom closet. It sounds hollow. Different from the rest. I think it is a false panel. Arthur must have hidden the box there. In her room? Karen hissed. We can't go in there while she is sleeping. We will give her a double dose tonight, Brad said. She won't wake up if the roof caves in. And if we don't find it by Sunday, we go with Plan B. Plan B? We call the state on Monday. We tell them she is dangerous. Hoarding, hallucinations, aggression. We show them the holes in the walls, say she did it looking for invisible bugs. We get her committed to Shady Pines. Once she is declared incompetent, you get power of attorney. We sell the house, or we tear it down brick by brick, until we find that gold. Shady Pines is a hellhole, Brad, Karen said, but her voice didn't waver. And this house is a lottery ticket, Karen. Do you want the money or not? A pause. Then, my daughter spoke the words that severed the last thread of my heart. Do it. Give her the double dose tonight. Let's finish this. They walked out. I opened my eyes. I wasn't crying. I was past crying. I looked at the fern, where I had poured the tea. It was already starting to wilt. They were going to poison me. They were going to frame me. They were going to throw me into a state facility, and gut my sanctuary. I stood up. My knees were shaking, not from age, but from adrenaline. I went to the closet. I reached into the back, inside an old shoe box, and pulled out a small, rugged flip phone. Arthur had kept it for emergencies. I kept it charged, hidden, just in case. I dialed a number I hadn't called in 3 years. Frank? I whispered when the line connected. Martha? The voice on the other end was gruff, surprised. Is everything okay? Frank was Arthur's best friend. They had served in Vietnam together. Frank was a retired Marine sergeant, a man who was made of gristle and honor. He was 72, but he could still bench press a Buick. No, Frank. It is not okay. Arthur was right. The vultures are circling. And they are trying to burn the nest. I told him everything. The mantle. The drilling. The drugs. The plan to commit me. I am coming over, Frank growled. I will bring my shotgun. No, I said. No shotguns, Frank. I don't want them dead. I want them destroyed. I want them to rot in a cell. I have a plan, but I need your help. And I need you to be invisible. Invisible is my specialty, Martha. What do you need? Can you get into the house, without using the doors? I built that trellis on the back porch, with Arthur in '95. It will hold me. Good. Come tonight, after midnight. They are planning to drug me, and break into my bedroom. I need you to be waiting. I will be there, Martha. Semper Fi. Semper Fi, Frank. I hung up. Then, I prepared for the performance of my life. I went downstairs for dinner. I ate the soup Karen made, but I switched my water glass with hers, when she turned to get the salt. I watched her drink it. I knew she wouldn't drug the soup, only the tea, but I wasn't taking chances. You look tired, Mom, Brad said, watching me closely. I am, I said. I think I will go to bed early. No tea tonight, Karen. My stomach is a bit upset. Panic flickered in Karen's eyes. Oh, but you need your tea, Mom. It helps you sleep. Not tonight. I will just take a warm bath. I went upstairs. I locked my bedroom door. I moved the heavy oak dresser, in front of it. Then, I turned off the lights and sat in the dark. At 12:30 a.m., I heard a soft tap on the window. I opened it. Frank climbed in from the trellis, silent as a ghost, dressed in black. He looked at me, his face grim. He didn't say a word. He just squeezed my shoulder. He moved to the walk-in closet, leaving the door cracked just an inch. At 1 a.m., the handle of my bedroom door jiggled. Locked, Brad whispered from the hallway. She didn't drink the tea, Karen hissed. She might be awake. Who cares? She is an old woman. We are going in. That gold is in the closet, Karen. I can feel it. Brad, don't break the door. I am not waiting anymore. We are doing this. He started pounding. Tell us where the gold is, old woman. That brings us back to the moment the crowbar hit the wood. The moment my heart was hammering against my ribs. The moment Brad wound up for the final blow that would shatter my privacy and my safety. 3. Have it your way, you senile old bat. Smash. The wood splintered. The lock gave way. The door flew open, hitting the dresser I had dragged in front of it. Brad stepped into the room, his eyes wild, sweat dripping down his face. Karen was behind him, looking pale and terrified. Where is it? Brad screamed, raising the crowbar. Where is the false panel? Don't make me hurt you, Martha. Put it down, Brad, I said, standing up. My voice was steady. There is no gold. Liar. Arthur hid it. I know he did. He took a step toward me. I am going to tear this room apart, and if you get in my way. If I get in your way, what? I will put you in the hospital right now, instead of the asylum on Monday. He raised the crowbar again. And that was when the closet door opened. Frank didn't just step out. He launched. He covered the distance between the closet and Brad, in 2 strides. He moved with a speed that defied his age. Drop it, son. Before I make you drop it. Brad froze. He looked at the man standing between him and me. Frank was 6'2". He had scars on his arms and a look in his eyes that said he had seen things Brad couldn't even imagine in his nightmares. Who are you?" Brad stammered. "I am the eviction notice," Frank said. "Get out of my way, old man." Brad tried to rally his courage. He was younger, maybe stronger, but he was a bully. Frank was a warrior. Brad swung the crowbar at Frank. It was the biggest mistake of his life. Frank caught Brad's wrist mid-swing, with one hand. The sound of the impact was a meaty thud. Brad screamed as Frank twisted. The crowbar clattered to the floor. Frank swept Brad's legs, sending him crashing onto the hardwood. In a second, Frank had Brad's arm pinned behind his back, his knee pressing into Brad's spine. "Karen, run!" Brad screamed into the floorboards. Karen turned to run, but she stopped dead in the hallway. 2 police officers were standing at the top of the stairs. They had entered through the back door I had left unlocked for them, signaled by Frank via text moments before the breach. "Police!" one of them shouted. "Hands where we can see them." Karen raised her hands, trembling violently. I didn't do anything. He is crazy. My husband is crazy." I walked out of the bedroom, stepping over Brad, who was groaning under Frank's weight. I stood in front of my daughter. "He is not crazy, Karen," I said softly. "He is greedy. And so are you." "Mom, please," she sobbed. I was scared. "He forced me." "Save it for the judge," I said. "And Karen?" She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "You were right about one thing. This house does have ears. And eyes." I pointed to the bookshelf in the hallway. A tiny red light blinked from inside a hollowed-out book. "I installed the cameras 3 days ago," I said. "I have you pouring the powder in my tea. I have you discussing the asylum. I have you planning to gut the house. I have everything." Karen's knees buckled. She slid down the wall, weeping into her hands. "Take them away," I said to the officers. As they dragged Brad to his feet, he looked at me with pure hatred. "You are a witch, Martha. There is gold in these walls. I know it. You are sitting on a fortune, and you are letting it rot." "There is a fortune in this house, Brad," I said, leaning in close. "It is the history. It is the memories. It is the dignity of the people who lived here. Things you will never possess." Frank marched him down the stairs, handing him off to the officers, like a bag of trash. When the house was finally empty, silence returned. But it wasn't the heavy, oppressive silence of loneliness. It was the clean, sharp silence of victory. Frank stayed that night. He slept in the guest room, his door open, just in case. The next morning, we sat in the kitchen. The sun streamed through the windows, illuminating the dust motes, dancing in the air. The holes in the walls were still there. The mantel was still missing. The door was broken. "It is a mess, Martha," Frank said, pouring coffee. "It is a battlefield, Frank," I corrected. "But the war is over." "Did Arthur really leave gold?" Frank asked, a twinkle in his eye. "Come with me," I said. I led him to the master bedroom. I walked to the closet, to the exact spot Brad had been obsessed with. I knelt down and pried loose a floorboard that was slightly loose, not a false panel, just an old board. Underneath was a small metal box. He was right, Frank whistled. I opened the box. Inside, there was no gold. No jewelry. No cash. There was a letter, written in Arthur's sprawling handwriting, and a bottle of 1965 scotch, the year we were married. I pulled out the letter, and read it aloud. My dearest Martha. If you are reading this, I am gone. People always ask if we are rich, because of this big old house. I tell them we have a fortune in the walls. They think I mean money. But I mean the love we built this shelter with. That is the only gold that matters. Drink the scotch. Toast to us. And never let anyone tell you this house is just wood and stone. It is us. Love, Arthur. Frank smiled, his eyes misty. That old romantic fool. Yes, I smiled, tears finally flowing freely. My fool. I looked around the room. The repairs would take months. It would cost a fortune to fix the damage they had caused. Frank, I said. Do you still know how to fix a door? Martha, he said, cracking his knuckles. I can fix anything. Karen and Brad were charged with elder abuse, attempted poisoning, and destruction of property. With the video evidence and the toxicity report, from my blood showing the sedatives, they didn't have a prayer. They are currently serving 5 and 7 years, respectively. I visited Karen once in prison. She asked about the gold. I told her the truth. The gold was the family you betrayed. I still live in my Victorian fortress. The door has been repaired, stronger than before. The mantel has been replaced. Frank comes over for dinner on Sundays. And sometimes, at night, when the house settles, and the floorboards creak, I don't feel fear. I feel the house breathing around me, protecting me. I am Martha. I am the keeper of this history. And if anyone ever tries to take it from me again, well, let's just say I kept the crowbar. And Frank taught me how to use it.